Well, good evening, parents to Green Lightsaber. Very pleased to meet with you and discuss some many strengths of Green Lightsaber and a few areas of need. So, Green Lightsaber is someone that I would call an all-rounder. Um, just a student who is doing well in all academic areas. One of the things I appreciate about Green Lightsaber was how willing he was to work with me. He has a great attitude for learning and is not afraid to ask for help or clarification, which I think is a great asset to him. And also, I really admire his confidence, the confidence that he has in his abilities. For example, he attributed himself to be a good reader when I asked him who a good reader was. So I think you're doing a great job as parents. Overall, fantastic reader, has fantastic handwriting, and what we're going to be talking about is just a few of the assessments that I did with Green Lightsaber and some areas of strengths and how you can continue to, I guess, work on those strengths or make those strengths stronger. And then a few areas of need that we'll talk about a bit later, but nothing really to worry about. So throughout this whole experience, I did some running records, which is when you listen to a student read the book and then you assess which words they read correctly, which words they didn't. There were some recall tests, which basically measured comprehension. The purpose of that is to, test whether they're making meaning from what they're reading, if anything's really going in. I also found out his interest in reading by asking him some questions and did some spelling inventory, testing which levels of spelling he's at, and then did what's known as a sentence diction test, which is basically a student's ability to transfer an audible story onto paper, which measures syntax, short-term memory, and punctuation and handwriting. So I wanted to start by listing all the strengths, and then I'll include some specific assessments and scores with that. This is what I wrote down about Green Lightsaber. He has confidence in his ability as a reader and writer, which is very important. He incorporates reading strategies to help him decode the words on the page. All three running records had him reading at an independent or instructional level, and I'll talk about that a bit later. He has neat handwriting that utilizes all the ways he's been taught during handwriting time. Knows how to spell quite a few words that can't be sounded out, which is based upon memory. Can recall in good detail events that happened in the books that he reads, and then isn't afraid to ask for help or clarification on the assessments. Now, specifically on the running records, he read this book called Are You a Friend and received an accuracy rating of 100%, which means that he read all the words correctly, which is incredible. And the second running record that we did was when he read The Yard Sale, scoring 97% reading accuracy. And so, this is independent and instructional reading levels. Independent is where there's no problems with the book, you don't find it challenging at all. And instructional means that there are just a few things that you need to work on, but overall you're still able to read massive majority of the book. During his sentence diction test, he was able, something that amazed me quite a lot is that he was able to spell out the word yellow, school, today, and even friend, which I still have trouble spelling. And so these words, I think, must have been learned by heart or from noticing in books that he reads, which is great. And some reading strategies to help that he incorporated while he was reading that I noticed was that he would use his forefinger to follow the words on the page, and he would also sound out the letters, which would get him to the right word every time he used that strategy, coincidentally. So just a few, I've written down a few strategies that I'll be working on in the classroom, but I thought for the sake of time, we'll talk about some instructional strategies that you can do at home, which are very simple, just a suggestion, don't have to do it. One of the yeah, one of the suggestions that I had to build from his strengths of being able to read the words was focusing on expression when he reads, and that's defined as children reading and varying their expression to match their interpretation of the text. So one idea I had was that perhaps at home you could write a little play that you can act out to your family and have him be a character, and you be a character, and help him practice reading how his character would talk, or other writing activities like that. So basically helping him recognize how he would increase his expression when he read his character parts. Another thing that I thought would be good to focus on is to spell high frequency words. Now these are words that are used most often in the English language and really helps with writing and reading. It seems that he's probably got the 100 most used words down, and to start working on the 300 most frequently used words. And so at home, occasionally have Green Lightsaber write a short summary of what he liked about the book, and then try and incorporate high frequency words there. So, and then finally, another strategy that I recommend that you consider is to add to his repertoire of reading strategies, and that's what's known as flipping the vowel. Sometimes we know that English isn't perfect, and so sometimes when you sound out a word, sometimes it doesn't sound right, but if you flip the vowel, then more often than not, then you're going to come up with the right word. So one thing that I recommend is flipping the vowel or looking at the picture. When you're reading with Green Lightsaber, have him look at the pictures when he comes to a word he doesn't know and see if that helps him come up with the word. So lists of all areas of need, that's what I was required to do, but the needs aren't as big as they were, as the strengths. The first one is spelling, funnily enough. When we did the spelling test, he came to a certain point where spelling was a bit difficult for him, so some of the rules of letters in words need to be either learned or refreshed. And as I mentioned earlier, he needs to read with more prosody. Sometimes he reads a little fast, which misses occasional words, and we'll come on to the third running record in a bit. And we've already mentioned this, learn more reading strategies to make sure that he doesn't miss a word, particularly if the words are unique to a certain subject, and ignore the piano playing if you can hear that. And in some of the tests he needs some aided retelling, which means that I had to prompt him to say some of the information. So like I said, on the third running record, he did make 5 errors, giving an accuracy rating of 93%. Now typically that's bordering on instructional. And so one of the things that I would suggest you doing is, and this book was on the penguin chick, basically focusing on the life of a penguin. So it was a book that's unique, or has a unique subject like zoology. And so one of the things that I've suggested that you maybe do at home is to choose books that focus on a particular subject, so you can be exposed to new words gradually that way. And regarding the spelling, at home when reading with him, take some time to highlight a couple of words for him to write down in a sentence after you read the book. A book that I'm reading at the moment suggested that 2 of the most important ways children learn to spell through daily reading and writing. So just have some opportunity to write every now and again. And in terms of building comprehension, like I mentioned, aided retelling, I had to remind him or prompt him to say a few things. One of the things that the book recommended that I'm reading was setting a purpose activates a mental blueprint to use while reading, which aids how they sort relevant from irrelevant information as they read. And so when you read with him at home, I would recommend asking him what he wants to find out about the book, and then read it with him, and then talk afterwards about what he learned from the questions that he had before. So those are just some suggestions of strategies that you can do in your home. Overall, I'm very impressed with Green Lightsaber's literacy progress. He is reading above where he should be at this time of year, and is learning some great reading strategies. His writing is very easy to read, and is starting to provide more detail as time goes on. And for me, the most important part about these assessments was finding out that he sees himself as a confident reader. So thank you for what you're doing in helping your child be a literate person. It's a pleasure to teach him in the class.